together.
Let's go.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 science fiction horror film Alien Romulus. The film is co-written and directed by Fede Alvarez and it stars Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, Archie Renault, Isabella Merced, Spike Fern and Aileen Wu. Right, okay, this is set a couple of decades after the events of the first Alien film, the 1979 Alien film. And it focuses on a group of miners, essentially, young miners who are on this planet. They're mining away. However, it's basically slave labour, and you know the contract's not up for a long, long time, and they're looking for a way out. And one of them comes up with this idea. There is like a space station that's kind of near to their vicinity, and that it appears to be abandoned, and they can kind of zoom up there in a ship and, you know, stake their claim on it and make a lot of money, and that'll kind of open up opportunities for them. However, to do it, they need Kaylee Spaney's character, Rain, and her brother, David Johnson, played by Andy, who is a synthetic. And he is essentially part of her family, has been for a long time, but he's kind of malfunctioning in a lot of ways. But he has the technology, the Wayland technology, in order to allow them to access this space station. So they all get there. When they get there, the space station is abandoned. There's some freaky stuff obviously been going on. There's acid burns everywhere. And then they are set upon by a lot of face huggers that eventually lead to them being terrorized by a xenomorph. Right. What are my thoughts on Alien Romulus? The first thing I want to say about this is I think this film is incredibly respectful of the Alien franchise and the films that have come before. Some might argue too respectful at times, because it has a lot of kind of callbacks and fan moments from the other films that I think some of them I think work just fine, and I think some of them you could argue was tipping the hat a little bit too much. And it didn't need to do that. And the reason why I say it didn't necessarily need to do that is because I actually think this is a tremendous Alien film, and it stands on its own 2 feet, and it doesn't, if you like, need to nod consistently to the films that have come before to kind of feel like it belongs. And that's kind of how it feels occasionally in this film, that it's kind of, you know, doing that. And a couple of the times I found it a little bit frustrating, because I thought this film was very, very well done, very well made. Fede Alvarez obviously is a very talented director. He brought us the Evil Dead remake, which is really, really good, and the Don't Breathe film, which essentially is really, really good as well. And there's a lot of similarities, it has to be said, I certainly thought, between this film and Don't Breathe. You know, these young people in Don't Breathe going into that house, not expecting the Stephen Lang character, the blind man, to be anywhere near as capable as he was. And it's a similar story here. You've got these young people looking for an opportunity to better themselves, if you like, going on into this space station and having no idea what they're facing, really. So there are some similarities here between what he's done before, which is just fine with me, because I think Fede Alvarez is a master of tension, building tension, holding tension, and keeping you on the edge of your seat. And that is very, very much evident here in this film. I thought it was structured excellently. When you consider this was initially going to go stream straight to Hulu, I believe, and I think they obviously realised what they had on their hands, the fact that, oh, this is actually pretty bloody good. Right, we'll give this a cinema release. And, you know, for those of you who've been following, like, the development and progress of this film, you've probably seen interviews with, like, Ridley Scott, or YouTube videos of reports where Fede Alvarez showed the film to Ridley Scott, which, you know, I would have done anyway, because Ridley Scott's one of the producers. to get his feedback, and Ridley Scott loved it. I think the only feedback he gave him initially was the film's too long. You need to kind of cut some out to kind of, fast, make it a bit more fast paced. But he really liked it, Ridley Scott. So fans' expectations for this film just continued to grow, and everybody was really hopeful that we're going to get an Alien film that really harkens back to the original first two films. Now, I don't dislike Alien 3. I think it has some merit, that film. I don't hate Alien Resurrection, but it's probably my least favourite Alien film. And I actually quite like Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I reviewed last year all the Aliens franchise films, and I, to some degree, I thought they all had merit. If I was to rank the Alien franchise, this would be the third on the list. This is definitely, I think, my third favourite Alien film. It sits perfectly in the timelines between the first three films. So you got Alien, then you got the events of Alien, then you got the events of Alien Romulus, then you got the events of Aliens, and they all kind of match as well, because he's done a brilliant job, Fede Alvarez, of kind of harkening back to that retro tech that we saw in the original Alien. It's just so cool to see, the early scenes in this film, and it just feels like, you're back in that universe, and it all feels really, like the tech is old-fashioned and all that kind of stuff, and that's something that I disliked about the Prometheus and the Alien Covenant films, is the fact that the tech in those movies seemed far more advanced than the tech in Alien and Aliens and this, you know what I mean? It didn't really make an awful lot of sense to me. So I thought this was structured very well. It had some brilliant ideas as well in this film. Really, really fantastic ideas. There's some really fabulous set pieces. There's a set piece with I don't want to spoil anything, but the facehugger stuff was fabulous. I think the facehuggers in this film absolutely come front and centre, and I don't think I've ever seen them featured as heavily in an Alien film as this, and they're properly, freaky and quite frightening, those scenes. The xenomorph itself seems really frightening and terrifying again. They make it a scary creature. And I thought that was really good. They kind of added to the lore, but in a way that kind of makes sense, I felt. And the two central performances for me by Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson were outstanding. I thought Kaylee Spaney was superb, and I she felt comfortable in the role. She was, a character that you could root for. She was intelligent, resourceful, all them kind of things you want from your female lead in an Alien film, just like Ripley. I'm not saying she's as good as Ripley. I'm not saying she's an effective replacement for Ripley, but I thought she was very, very good as a character. But I actually think David Johnson as Andy kind of stole the show a little bit. Like I say, he plays an artificial person, and you know that very early on in the film. And it's also very clear that he's kind of, I think he was rescued from a scrap heap or something by her father. So they were kind of brought up together. So that's why she considers him a brother. He's always cracking stupid jokes. He's got twitches and stuff because he's not functioning, brilliantly. And then you see another layer to him on this space station when he gets another chip added that kind of converts him into this much colder version of Andy, even with a different accent. And it's a really cool performance, because he goes from a character you really, really like and you've got a lot of sympathy for, to a character almost villainous. And it's really great and a layered performance. And you're going to hear a lot about the return of a familiar character. I am not going to spoil who it is. You'll get a lot of people saying, the CGI is bad in relation to that. It's not the best, but it does its job. And it's another part of the film I actually really quite enjoyed, because this returning character, well, it's not even the same character. if I'm being honest, but you'll understand what I mean when you watch the film. It had quite a large part in the film, in all honesty, and it fit just brilliantly. And again, it felt very respectful to what had come before. So I thought this film was great. Some people, I think, will probably be complaining about the pace of the film for the first act. I didn't mind it because we're establishing relationships with characters, building tension. You know what I mean? I mean, look at the pacing of Alien and Aliens at the start of those movies. You know what I mean? You're not straight into the action. You've got, I think, audiences these days they've got short attention spans sometimes. You've got to establish these characters. You know, you've got to start movies in such a way where, you know, if you're going straight into it, then you know where do you do character development and all this kind of stuff. So, and world building. So I didn't mind any of that at all. I thought it was paced really, very, very well. I thought the effects were superb. My understanding is I think he brought some of the effects people on board from the original Alien. I'm sure I've read that. And I think Fede Alvarez has brought a lot of eyes back on this franchise, and I hope he's given the opportunity, if I'm honest, to make more. I'll be very, very excited to see what he can do, because I thought Alien Romulus was a fabulous addition to the Alien franchise. It was a lot of fun to watch, very entertaining and genuinely scary and frightening where it needed to be as well. So yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it. For me, the hype is real. I think some people are a little bit lukewarm on the film. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a genuine article, and if you get the opportunity to see it, then get out there and give it a watch. So thanks for joining me for this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.